And so this, in Exhibit 17, shows the vantage point you had, the view you had from where you were standing.
Correct. I only had that side view of the two officers and the shoulder length of George Floyd's head, nothing else.
And when you were in this location, can you describe for the jurors what you saw about Mr. Floyd, how he appeared? Well, let me back up just for a second. You've used Mr. Floyd's name. Did you know him at the time?
I did not know Mr. Floyd at all. No real connection.
So you're using his name because you've learned since then who he is?
Correct. Can't go too many places without not knowing his name or seeing his face in Minnesota.
So when you're in this location, you first come up and you're seeing him, he's able to speak.
Correct.
Can you describe what you saw of Mr. Floyd's condition as time progressed here?
As time progressed, so when I first arrived on the scene, Mr. Floyd was vocalizing his sorriness and his pain and his distress that he was going through. The more that the knee was blocked on his neck and shimmies were going on, the more you seen Floyd fade away and slowly fade away, and like the fish in a bag, you seen his eyes slowly, pale out and again slowly roll to the back of his eyes. And so this is what I seen, this is what I heard, and that's how, what it was. Like, he was going through distress because of the knee, and he vocalized it, that I can't breathe, I need to get up, and I'm sorry. And his eyes slowly rolled to the back of his head. You seen the blood coming out of his nose. You heard him tell him before he stopped speaking that my stomach hurts, and those most of the times is the last bowel movement of your life. So from there on, he was lifeless. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't have no life in him, no more on his body movements.
During that time period, did you notice anything about his breathing that was significant to you?
Yes, just like in MMA, you could tell when someone gets tired, or you could tell when someone's getting choked out or things like that. His breathing was getting tremendously heavy and tremendously harder for him to breathe, and you actually could hear him. You could see him struggling to actually gasp for air while he was trying to breathe. And I mean, he barely could move while he was trying to get air.
As you were standing there, did others gather around?
Correct. At the moment, I was the most vocalist person out there pleading for Floyd's life, because I felt like it was definitely in the wrong. And there was, at one point in time, a medic came on scene, and she spoke on checking pulse, what made me even go even more harder, because I heard it and then I registered in it, like, oh, you do need to check his pulse. Oh, he is not moving. Like, oh, you just killed this man, And so her expertise was like, look, he's fading away. You need to check his pulse. She's asking him multiple times. I'm asking him multiple times. No one checked his pulse.
And so did you think, based on your training experience, that this looked like a blood choke?
That is correct.
And did you say that to the officer?
That's correct.
And how did he respond when you said that to him?
He looked at me right here. It's the only time he looked at me. When I said it was a blood choke, it's the only time he looked up. We looked each other dead in our eyes. Yeah, and when I said it, he acknowledged it.
And
like, we're looking at each other right here.
Okay.
Last statement is sustained as non-responsive.
And so when,
question.
I'm sorry. And Mr. Williams, from that vantage point depicted in Exhibit 17, that officer, do you see that person present in the courtroom today?
That's correct. He's standing right there.
In order to ask the record to reflect he's identified the defendant?
Hearing none, it will so reflect.
When you were there at the scene,